Well, Beth, you ready to do some trail work today?
Oh, what a beautiful morning. So what we try to do, Beth has some cactus in her, try to get these high spots and move them into the low spots. So I do a little bit of time, shovel it into the low spot, pack it in with my big boots, and then do another layer, pack it in again. And we'll keep doing that down the line and try to get it to where these are manageable. This only lasts a couple months and then you have to do it again. So for people who love whoops, don't get too upset because they'll be back. And one of the reasons these whoops are made is bikes will come in and they'll roll these whoops and they'll hit the high spot, roll the high spot, come into the low spot and accelerate and blip the throttle and come to the high spot. Blip the throttle on the low spot. And gradually over time, that kicks the dirt from the low spot and puts it up on the high spot. Then the fast riders come through and they blitz the whoops and they pack the high spots down to where the high spots are really hard and the low spots are really soft from the slower riders rolling the whoops and kicking the dirt up. So just if you're curious how these things get formed, that's how they get formed. And the fast riders would really prefer if the whoops were a little more manageable so they're not quite as dangerous. I guess the really fast riders don't care, but the medium fast riders don't want to land on their butts. Anyways, so we're gonna shovel this up, clean this little area, and then we'll move on to the next. Another note on this trail work is I'm trying to restore the trail. I'm not trying to modify it or change it or do anything like that. I'm just restoring it to its original intent. What happens also when these whoops form, as you'll notice on this trail right here, it gets wider and wider and wider. And pretty soon you can drive a truck down this road. So what I'm trying to do is get it back to just a single track like it's meant to be. So people don't keep skirting around the outsides of the whoops and they can actually ride the trail. So a lot of people, well, some people will say they like the whoops. And don't get me wrong, I like the whoops too. But when everybody skirts around the outside, you make a single track into a double track. And I'm trying to preserve this area, make it into a nice single track. If you want to, you can just go over to the left and you can ride double track. It mirrors this whole single track that we have on 11 Mile. So we have quad trail right there. And then we have single track dirt bike trail right here. So if we stay on the single track, we can preserve the single track. If we keep skirting to the outside, pretty soon we make a double track. And if that keeps happening, you're gonna have side-by-sides taking over this trail. So really wouldn't want that to happen. So hopefully we can keep this trail intact and make it the wonderful 11 Mile that it is. Looks like Beth found herself a rawhide chew toy. It's an awfully big one. Poor cow. All right, go ahead. You can finish what you're doing. You're okay. And that's what it looks like when I've completed a section. I try to rake out the area I don't want people to ride on. Now, I'm not a dictator or anything. So if people decide to change the line, then I will adapt and I will repair that line and try to remove the other lines. So, but right now I believe this is the fastest line, a nice outside, clean line, and it goes right into this slightly S turn and a nice bermed sandy corner that goes into some other whoops, but I think those will be okay. I'm not out here to smooth out the entire 11 miles, so we'll see how it goes. But this was just about, I don't know, half an hour's worth of work. Not a big deal, but looks a lot better, and you'll be able to make a nice smooth acceleration without hopefully creating more and more whoops, because the world is a much better place with less whoops. Okay, now it's finished. So I decided to take the quad and try and pack down this trail a little bit more where I smoothed it out, and then rake out the quad tracks so nobody knows it was a quad. I mean, not many dirt bikes have a tire that fat, but it's possible. Anyways, it looks a lot better, and I'm trying to discourage any quad riders from trying to take this nicely groomed trail over. It's a lot of work, but it's a labor of love. All right, let's go, Beth. So this whoop here is an example of a nice roller. Nice, easy, it's got a little dip there, but something you could easily, and it's fun to do. You actually just lift the front end up right here. If you accelerate right there, you're not gonna create a whoop, you're actually gonna destroy it. But instead, there's guys, you know, I'm not gonna throw it any, it's not a big deal, it happens, but I prefer, like see there's a tree right here, and guys are still hugging that tree, making this inside line just to avoid a little dip. And look at how wide it makes the trail. I could almost drive my van through that. Where originally, you can see if you look to the right, that's all it was. It's just a little single track. And now because somebody doesn't want to hit that little dip, they cut onto the inside, and now they make a double track. So, I mean, I hate to get rid of all the whoops on this track, but if people are going to be riding right alongside any type of little dip, instead of just riding it like you should with a dirt bike, I mean, I don't know. This trail is going to get wider and wider, and I hate to see that happen. Now these right here are going to be acceleration bumps. So this is different than whoops. This is from a motorcycle coming out of the corner and accelerating hard, and as it does, the suspension will skip as it loses and gains traction, and then if it does that once, then it gets exaggerated and exaggerated and exaggerated. Now keep in mind, this right here, this section is probably, it took about, I don't know, 6 months probably to get this bad, and it's not really that bad. So just a little lesson on how these things are created. Maybe I can pull up a video or something that explains it really better, but that's how these are. So when you come out of a corner, what you want to do is, instead of just hammering it down, you want to be smooth on the throttle and try to keep as much traction as possible. And you're going to find out that it's actually faster probably when you're doing that. I'm not a AA rider or even an A rider, but I do know that it does help, keeps the trail nice and clean, and also you go just as fast, if not faster. So, and nobody's racing out here other than a couple guys. So just keep that in mind. I mean, it's not a big deal. I would rather somebody make whoops than make the trail wider and wider and wider to try to avoid them. I mean, that's my opinion. So if we could just keep all this, I know I'm repeating myself over and over again, but if that's the beauty of single track, is it's a single track. It's not a quadruple track. So, or a bazillions track. So, I don't know. Maybe this will get through to some people. Yo, Holly. All right, man. This is what it looks like after cleaned up the acceleration bumps a bit. And what you have to do, you have to chisel away at the hard pack and then level it out. So like I said, the loose stuff gets kicked up, and then the bikes that are going fast slam into the high points and they pack it down, and it literally gets like a rock, and you really have to chisel away at it. But once you chisel away at it, now you have a good, fairly smooth surface, and it'll help a lot keep that area smooth, and then people won't make alternate lines, hopefully. And we can keep this single going just like that. Nice, beautiful single track. Anyways, that's what we're working on. Here's a really good example of hitting a whoop. So you're coming in here, you hit this and you accelerate here. They're hitting this bump, and then because the bike is getting light, it spins up this dirt and you get this nasty little rut that, I mean, it's actually better than the whoop in reality. But some riders can get through here that aren't very experienced and get spooked by a deep rut like that, and it'll throw them off. I'm not thinking about myself, I'm thinking about everybody. I want everybody to enjoy this trail. Now granted, I'm not completely unselfishly doing this. It really helps me. You know, I think that in your life, you need some chaotic therapy, which is riding your dirt bike as fast as you can. Clears your mind and you can't think about anything else other than the trail in front of you and the cactus surrounding the trail. And then there are days when you need tranquility therapy. And that's this, where you just come out here, nice and quiet. You have your dog that walks in the cactus patches, gets cactus all over her feet, and you pull them out. It's really therapeutic. So that's what we do today. This section right here, this is going to be just for me. This is what I like. So that little bump there, I'm going to take that out, so we got a good run up to this lip, so I can jump this whole area and land right over there, because that's what I like to do. It's super fun, so the fast guys know what I'm talking about. Come up here and we jump this, land nice and smooth over there on the other side.